Well, good morning, Cape Coral community. How are you this morning? Good, good. Hopefully you're well rested, right? You got an extra hour, so you should be feeling pretty good. I don't. I still feel as exhausted as I did the other day, but whatever. It was an hour, right? Well, my name is Teresa, and I'm one of the pastors here in this community, which is awesome. David started last weekend talking about breathing room. It was a new series he kicked off, and he talked about the fact that we're just an overextended country. Like, there's no breathing room in anything that we do. There's no breathing room in our finances, in our emotions, and physically we don't leave ourselves. We're just overextended. That's what we do. That's what seems to be what we do best. So this week we're going to yet again talk about making some breathing room, but I'm not quite sure why we need breathing room, because this is something that we just don't have enough of. That's the problem. It's just there's not enough. And we complain about it all the time, the fact that there's not enough, and we know that there's actually never going to be any more while we complain that there's not enough. So what that is we're going to talk this week about our time and putting some breathing room back in our time. See, as human beings, we're pretty capable. We are pretty capable in this day and age, and science and technology has advanced so far, and it'll probably continue to advance. But the thing is I'm not quite sure that we could advance enough that we would get to the point where we might start making time, right? We can clone people even these days, but I don't know if we could make time. So the fact of the matter is that we have got to learn to get used to working with the time that we have, because we can't make any more. So we're just going to have to figure out a way to do that. Now, we've been talking about breathing room quite a bit, and I've been looking at my life from the perspective of adding some breathing room to things. And I've been looking at what it is that I could make room for in my life, maybe something that I never have enough time for, that I want desperately to be in my life, I just never have enough time. Or maybe, what is it that is crowding my life that maybe I need to remove so that I can make more time, things that maybe aren't so necessary. So I've been looking at this type of stuff for the last few weeks, and I've discovered that there is something that I'm really lacking that I would like to add to my time. Now, I'm good at taking time off. People are always on me to get a day off, so I'm taking the time off, and I'm good about taking my days off. However, what I've noticed is that if I'm not intentional about scheduling on my day off something that actually rejuvenates me, something that refreshes me, something that replenishes me, if I don't actually take part in those type of activities on my day off, then the day off doesn't really seem to accomplish what I want it to accomplish, right? So I'm looking for activities that actually rejuvenate me, that make me feel rested, that make me feel alive after I've done those. And those are things that I'm trying to work into my life. And I discovered that one of the things I really enjoyed doing is with my family is we have something, and we actually do this on accident, but we have a movie night, usually about once a week. So we sit down on a Friday. Friday night's our favorite night to do it, as long as we all aren't doing something else or getting home too late. But we like to sit down on Friday night and watch a movie together. Now, I'm a loyal Netflix customer because of this fact, and I don't do the whole streaming thing. In this case, for the movie night for my family, I'm old-fashioned. I order the good old DVDs from Netflix. You know what I'm talking about? Do you remember what they look like? Yes, the good old DVDs. I order those from Netflix, so each week they come in my mailbox. So there's just something about it for us to have that actual DVD in hand and take it and put it into the DVD player and then watch the movie together as a family. There's just something about it. And see, in my house, we actually watch through all of the previews. You guys might skip through them, not us. We watch each and every preview. As a matter of fact, if somebody runs off to go to the bathroom before when we're sitting down to watch the movie, if they run off and the rest of the family starts the movie, there's trouble in my house. Because we got to watch all those previews. You've never seen people get so angry over previews, because we have to watch all of those previews together. It's just something about the whole feel of it that we like to do. It makes us feel good. It rejuvenates us. So this past Friday night, we had a movie. But the funny thing is about the movie is I actually had gotten the movie the week before from Netflix. And see, it was intended for not this past Friday, but the Friday before. Now, what usually happens is if something comes up Friday, then we try to do it Saturday night. And then if something comes up Saturday, usually what never fails is Sunday afternoon. So at some point, we try to get a movie in almost every weekend. But last weekend, that just didn't happen. Even Sunday afternoon got all messed up on us, so we never got to the movie. So when I opened up this movie Friday, it was actually a movie that had been intended for a week later, or a week earlier. But what's funny about this movie being opened up on Friday was something had happened earlier Friday. See, David and I sat down earlier Friday, and we made some adjustments to some things, and we kind of adjusted the schedule. So I'm standing here today because of an adjustment we made earlier Friday, right? And it was kind of unexpected, but it happens. We have to do that once in a while. We have to change around the schedule. But the thing is normally when we do that, we typically take a topic that we were going to preach on and we just switch the weeks that it was preached. So I would still speak about something that I was planning to speak on. But for whatever reason, Friday afternoon, I said, no, I think I'm going to keep this time thing. Rather than putting it off and letting him do it next week, I'm going to keep that. I think I'm going to speak about time. So you have to imagine that I was pretty surprised on my movie night on Friday night when I watched a movie that was a week old, and we put it in, and we got about halfway through the movie, and I realized this whole movie is about time. Funny, huh? God works in some mysterious ways, but the theme of the whole movie was about time. It's called The Age of Adeline, if you haven't seen it, and I won't tell you too much. I won't spoil the movie if you do want to. It wasn't my favorite ever, but it was pretty good. And what happens is it's about this woman that's born in 1908. And then she experiences some sort of accident in 1930 that changes her genetic makeup. And what it does is it kind of makes her immune, for lack of any better word, she's immune to aging. So she stops aging at 27 years old. Stops aging. So this movie takes place in 2013. Anybody good at math? That makes Adeline 105 years old, but she looks like a 27-year-old. Isn't that awesome? She's lived 105 years in the body of a 27-year-old. So when you first turn on this movie, it's exciting. Like, think about what you could do if you had 105 years with the body of a 27-year-old. Wow, what could I accomplish? What could I do? And at first, when I started watching that movie, it's all full of promise. But when you walk away from the movie, you actually end up walking away just a little bit different than that. See, I guess once you take the time to start considering that fantasy of having all of the time in the world, you actually conclude that you're pretty grateful for how limited our time is. Kind of takes you on this little journey. And see, this woman had all of the time in the world. She really did. But she wasn't aging. She wasn't walking through life quite the same way that everybody else was. So this curse that we call aging was actually her key to living. And what she did is she quit living. So here she has this life of 105 years, but quits living. And so it's no surprise by the end of the movie, you realize maybe it isn't so much about all the time that we have, but more about the quality of the time that we spend here. See, I've seen lives, full lives, lived out in less than 20 years. Actually, somebody comes to mind. A beautiful life lived out in less than 20 years. I've seen full lives lived out in 80 years. A life that I just would love to have. What a great life. Somebody who's walked through just an awesome journey for 80 years. But the thing is I've also seen a life wasted in less than 20 years. And I've seen a life wasted for 80 years. So see, it's quality. Now, this isn't the first time that I've actually considered this concept. I've thought about this many times. Just some years ago, I actually walked away from a promising career because I started to look at the fact that it was impacting my quality. My quality of life was going down with pursuing this career. And I'm sure many of you, I hear these stories all the time. Many people have similar stories about walking away from something that was causing them to lose quality. Maybe it's an activity or a career or a cause or whatever it was. We know as people, there's something in us that kind of alarms go off when we know that our quality of life is suffering because of something we're doing, right? Something that we're spending a lot of time. Alarms go off within us. But the thing is, for some reason, we keep doing it. And I think although we get it, we know that we have to put quality into our time. I think what we miss is the fact that it's a continuous process. See, we don't get that concept that it's a continuous process that requires continuous effort. See, now changing my career path back some years ago, it actually wasn't the first time I did it. It was the second time I did it. I guess I got myself into two messes that I had to do that. What happened is the first time I did that because I wanted to get some quality back in. But then I started junking my time up again. Have you ever done that? And then you get it all junked up and you got a bunch of junk in your time again. So then I called it again. I'm like, you know what? No, we're going to change quality again. So I called it again and I junked it up. I junked it up. And so if I'm really super honest with you today, I've honestly junked it up yet again. And I'm starting to spend a lot of time doing some things that aren't putting a lot of quality back into my life. See, I just keep running that same path. And I don't think it's that we don't have good intentions. I think it is that maybe we just don't know a lot about time. I mean, think about it. We have Adeline's problem. We don't know how much time we had. I mean, we don't have her problem. She's had 105 years, and we probably don't have 105 years. Or maybe we do. Who knows? Maybe they'll come up with some magic pill, and we can live 105 years. But we just don't know. We have no idea exactly how much time we have. I mean, let's be honest. If not in this room, somewhere probably in this city, or definitely somewhere in this state, today's the last day, right? For somebody. So maybe you only have today. I mean, we make remarkable efforts to try to control our time, to manage our time, right? That's what everybody tells you, time management. Can't tell you how many times I've been through time management. So we think we can control and manage it, but what happens is we put all these effort into it, and then we end up somewhere where we're like, you know what? Time's just not controllable or manageable, is it? It's where we end up feeling. I have seen decades pass by in the blink of an eye, have you? Just a blink, right? And it's a whole decade. Where'd that 10 years go? I've also seen moments last what feels like hours. Have you lived some of those moments in your life? Longest moments ever. So see, we don't even understand the passing of time. And even if we get smart and we say, you know what, I'm going to go to the creator of time because he's got to know. He has to know what this whole time thing's about, right? And you go here, and here's the thing. I love it, love it. Great book. However, makes it a little more confusing. There's people in there living 900 years, and then there's God saying 1,000 years is like a day to you. That makes no sense. It's almost like it just got worse. Now, I really don't understand time. I thought I had this 24-hour thing down, but there's a whole different concept in there. So I was trying to figure out, how is it? How come we don't understand time? And I started thinking about this guy named Solomon. Remember him? I actually spoke about him not so long ago. It was just probably a couple months ago, but I started thinking about Solomon. Because, see, Solomon got some things. Solomon got that for whatever reason, we just put no wiggle room in our time. There's no wiggle room. He recognized the fact that we do that. And here's the funny thing. Solomon figured that out thousands of years ago. So if thousands of years ago those poor people were just spent and exhausted, what are we today? We've found even more things than Solomon ever had to put into our time, haven't we? So what are we today? See, Solomon got that. He totally got that. Solomon understood that there was something wrong with whatever those popular ways were to spend our time. You know, those popular ways, the ways that we all chase after. See, Solomon did things like he chased after knowledge and pleasure and possessions and projects and work. He chased after those same things that we're still chasing after. Years and years and years later, we're still chasing exactly what Solomon outlined in his book. And what's funny is Solomon almost knew that we were going to do it. Because at one point in the book of Ecclesiastes, he says, all things continue the way they have been since the beginning. What has happened in the past will happen again. There is nothing new here on earth. It's like he knew what we were going to do, right? He knew we were just going to turn around and repeat all of the same mistakes that he had. But the thing is he found that we keep doing the same things that we've always done, and we keep getting the same results that we've always gotten. And we're still doing it today. We keep doing the same things we've always done, just like me changing jobs, right? I keep doing the same things I've always done, but keep getting the same results I've always gotten. So let's take a look at the book of Ecclesiastes this morning. If you have your Bibles with you, just open up, and I'm going to kind of jump around it just a little bit. But it's pretty interesting what Solomon finds out here. See, he starts by seeking out wisdom. Because you know what? If you're wise, then you got to know what to do with your time, right? You know how to put quality in it. If you get really wise to the ways of the world and you get really wise to what God wants for you, then you will fix this time problem, right? You will know how to make your time here quality. You will know that if you get wise. But here's what he finds. It's in Ecclesiastes, the first chapter of it, verse 18. Solomon says, with much wisdom comes much disappointment. Oh, that way didn't work, did it? No. So he carries on, and he says, you know what? Let's try pleasure. Let's try fun. Let's go have fun. We all tried that. Anybody who's over 20 knows that you always try to have fun for a little while. See how that goes, right? That's how I'm going to have a great life, is I'm going to have fun forever. Like I swore, 21, I'm always going to have this much fun. Yeah, no. Well, let's see what he has to say. So, Solomon tries it out in the second chapter of Ecclesiastes, verse 2. He says, it is foolish to laugh all the time, and having fun doesn't accomplish anything. See, fun's great. He's not saying fun's not bad. It's not a bad thing. We should have fun. Yes, we should. But the problem with fun is that then you don't get to that accomplishment part. And for whatever reason, we're just designed that way, are we not? We are designed to accomplish something. We feel good when we accomplish something. We're just designed that way. And chasing after fun is great for the moment. But it's the aftermath that comes from chasing after it, the inability to feel that accomplishment. So Solomon went down that road. And then Solomon tried something that we are still trying today. Like, I don't know, talk about, like, just kicking the dead horse. Like, we're still trying this today. Solomon went and tried working hard. Boy, do we try to work hard, don't we? Like, we just keep trying and trying and trying to work hard. Like, it's just going to work one of these times. One of these times we're going to get it right. But he tried it, and this is what he realized. And it's funny because we have to start looking at why we work so hard. I mean, my parents' generation, they were all about hard work, right? That's what you did. You got up and you worked hard. That's what you make an honest living. I remember, how many times have I heard honest living? That's what you do. You get up and you make an honest living. And Solomon did the same thing, but then he realized something. He says in chapter 4, verse 4 of Ecclesiastes, he says, I realize the reason people work hard and try to succeed. They are jealous of each other. This too is useless, like chasing the wind. I love that line, like chasing the wind. There's a lady named Bonnie Ware, and she wrote a book called The Top 5 Regrets of Dying. Interesting title, isn't it? See, I'm sorry, it's not Bonnie, it's Bronnie. I keep missing that R in there when I say her name. Her name is Bronnie Ware. She was a hospice nurse. She spent many, many years being a hospice nurse. And if you're familiar with hospice, you know that those nurses typically spend the last 12 weeks or less with a patient who is dying. That's when you enter into that program. So she spent a lot of time with people very near death. And what she did is she started interviewing them and started finding out what was it that they regretted. Because here you've got people on their very last days. Their very last days. They have the opportunity to look at their life in retrospect. And here's the 5 things that she came up with. Number 5 was, I wish I had let myself be happier. Number 4 was, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. Some of these regrets are probably already true for us, huh? Number 3 was, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. Number 2, you kind of got to grin at this one, was that I wish I didn't work so hard. And number 1, the top reason that most of her patients near death on their dying days said that they regretted in their life, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life that others expected me to live. Some pretty powerful stuff, and I'm going to say that when you're at the end of your life, you probably have pretty good hindsight at that point, right? You know, we never see anything when we're in it, but hindsight's usually 20/20. And the thing is about each and every one of these regrets, there's not one mention about quantity. Nobody mentions how much time they had here. Now think about it. A hospice nurse doesn't just see people who have lived a long life. A hospice nurse sees people dying in all different times of life, right? And not one of them mentioned quantity, how much time they had. They were all statements of quality, how they had spent the time that they had, regardless of how short or how long it was. And see, I got looking at these statements and I started thinking to myself, how do we avoid getting to this point of regret? And I started looking through Ecclesiastes and started trying to understand how to fit these things together. What is it that we don't understand about time or putting quality in our time? What is it that we don't get? Because these are not uncommon. These are totally common regrets. I've heard them before. We'll hear them again, where probably some of us are sitting here right now with them. And then it occurred to me that you never get results without a goal. There just are no results that come without a goal. And although your goal may not be intentional, there's still a goal attached to results, are there not? Each and every time there is a goal that produces the results that you get. So if you look at these statements, these regret statements, as results, why don't we for a moment consider what their goal had to be in order to obtain these results? So let me start with number 5 again. I wish I had let myself be happier. So what kind of goal would lead to those kind of results? And here's what I came up with. I will live my life with my dreams on the back burner. Right? That's what it would accomplish it. I'm going to live my life with my dreams on the back burner. That's how you get to the point of living a life that you feel unfulfilled or never happy. Or what about I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends? Well, a goal associated with those kind of results may be my life will be so full that I will have no time for relationships. Right? You're walking with me here. David would say you're trekking with me, right? You're trekking with me. Let's try, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. This one was a little tougher for me, but this is what I came up with for this one. I will finish this life without ever rocking the boat. Right? Just keep it right on calm waters where you never have to rock it. Or what about I wish I didn't work so hard? This one's my favorite because I think this is a great goal. Listen to this goal. I will finish this life logging the most hours ever. Yeah, that doesn't sound so great, right? And then the number 1. I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected to me. I will finish this life making everybody else happy at the expense of my happiness. See, what happens is if we are not intentional about things, things will be intentional for us. If we are not intentional about setting goals for our time, then what happens is life sets the goals for us. Something else will set the goal for us. Go in unintentional about your time to a new job, and I'm telling you real quick, a boss will set the goal for you, won't he? Yes, he's got plenty of hours for you to work and plenty of work for you to do. He will set it for you if you're not intentional. And see, we're lacking intentionality, and that's why we end up with regrets. So today, what I want you to do is I want you to consider for just a moment being intentional about our time and the quality of our time. Because let's face it, none of us have any breathing room in our time. And it's not the way we were designed. So how do we do that? How do we figure this thing out? Well, you know what? I know a guy who wrote a book. He wrote a book, and he spent a whole chapter or a whole book in here on time and how to spend it and how to get quality out of that time. So this is what I want you to do this week, is I want you to open up the book of Ecclesiastes, and I want you to read it. And you know what? I read it through once, and I read it through twice. I've actually, in the last few days, probably read it 3 or 4 times because it took me a while just to kind of soak it in. So I kept reading it. It's 12 chapters. If you can't do that much reading, take the next 12 days. Read 1 chapter a day. It's not that much. But what I want you to do is I want you to soak in Ecclesiastes because Solomon did what we are doing right now today. Solomon's tried it. So whatever you're trying right at this moment to get quality in your time, Solomon's already tried it. So why don't we soak that in? And once you soak that in, what I want you to do is instead of thinking about the 5 regrets you might have at the end of this life, whether it be today, tomorrow, next week, next year, or a century from now, instead of thinking about the 5 regrets, why don't we think about the 5 goals that we could have? Because this is what I did. As I read through Ecclesiastes, I listened to his knowledge, I listened to his wisdom, I listened to his experience, and then I came up with 5 goals for my time based on that. And I'll share them with you this morning. One goal I came up with was, I will work hard at work that matters. Another goal I came up with, I will enjoy my days with the people I love. Another one is I will honor God and obey his commands. This is probably perhaps my favorite one, is I will be easy on myself because nobody is perfect. And number 5, I will stop worrying about the future and face it boldly. See, here's the thing, is once you put that intentionality in your time, when things start getting out of control and you feel like you have no time and you get to that point where you're crazy and it's the end of the day and you just kind of ready to flop into your bed because there's just not an ounce of you left. What I want you to do is that I want you to pull out those 5 goals that you wrote down and I want you to ask yourself, is this how I lived my day? Did I spend my time today doing what I want to achieve with my time, with these goals that you have? And you know what? The answer may be no. It may be no a few times. It may be no quite often, but you know what you can do? Is you can wake up the next morning and you can look at that list again and you can read those 5 goals to yourself and you can say, today I'm going to do a little bit better. And you just keep doing that each and every morning, because if we are not intentional with our time, somebody will be intentional with our time for us. Our time is limited here. I don't know what that limit is, but we all have a limit. So maybe it's about time that we start limiting how we use it. Would you stand with me and pray? Father, I thank you for bringing us all here together. It's just a pleasure to be in your presence this morning, and I thank you for what you are working through our hearts, through our minds, through our bodies right at this moment, Father. Father, I ask that, you have given us all the exact same amount of time. And although we have no understanding of it, we all have 24 hours in a day, Father, and we struggle with how to spend those 24 hours. So, Father, I ask that you step in today, that you step in the way of our path and you show us the way that you want us to go. Father, I ask that we just learn to be still and in your presence so that we can sort out how we are going to put quality back in our time, how we are going to have room to breathe. Because, Father, that is what you intended for us, and we know that. So, Father, just put your hand over this as we walk this journey together. We ask all these things in your Son's precious name. Amen. You may have a seat.